There's a specific kind of burnout that I don't think we talk about enough, especially in the business world. It's not the burnout of working an 80-hour week because your boss is a tyrant or you're trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Right, not the usual hustle culture burnout.
No, exactly. It's the burnout of the person who is incredibly self-aware. Maybe they've done years of therapy or spiritual work. They have this crystal clear vision for a business, but every single time they try to apply standard business advice.
The move fast, break things model.
Yes, that. Move fast, crush the competition, 10x your leads. They physically shut down.
Something allergic reaction. It's visceral, isn't it?
It's a total system rejection. And usually the diagnosis from the world is, oh, you just need a better mindset, or you have a fear of success.
You're not hungry enough. That's the one I hear.
That's the one. But today we're looking at a stack of research that suggests something completely different. It suggests that this affliction, it isn't a mindset block at all. It's a structural incompatibility.
And that is a massive reframing, a huge one. We are diving deep into the work of Kaia Solene today.
Sure.
She's a researcher in the field of human development, and she's specifically looking at what she calls unified inner and outer evolution. And her work is, well, it's dense. She's an ontogenetic methodologist.
Whoa, okay, let's pause on that. Ontogenetic methodologist, that is a mouthful. What are we actually talking about there?
It is, yeah. So ontogenesis,
yeah,
it just refers to the development of an individual organism from the earliest stage to maturity.
Okay.
So in this context, she studies how the internal development of a person, their consciousness, their biology, their nervous system, how that directly dictates the external structure of what they can build.
So not just influences it, dictates it.
Dictates it.
Yeah.
Her thesis is that for the conscious entrepreneur, and specifically for the single-person business owner, the practitioner is the system.
Which, that sounds simple on the surface. I am my business. But she means this literally, right? Like down to the biomechanical level.
Literally. She argues that your business infrastructure, your marketing, your sales funnels, your operations, all of it can only be as stable as your internal nervous system regulation.
Wow.
So if there's a crack in the foundation of your self-concept, it will inevitably manifest as a structural crack in your business model. You cannot strategy your way out of a developmental gap.
That's the heavy hitter right there. It means the business plan isn't the problem. The biological capacity to hold the plan is the problem.
Precisely.
So before we get into the solution, which she calls living embodied presence, or LEP, we need to define who gets hit by this, because she uses a really specific term, the conscious foreseer. Who is that person? She's
describing a very specific psychological profile. This is the intuitive. It's someone who is likely developmentally ahead of their current life structures.
What does that mean, ahead of their life structures?
It means their awareness, their insight has outpaced the container of their life. They see nuance, they feel systems, they value interconnectedness. They're often people who can walk into a room and just immediately sense the emotional temperature.
I know that person.
We all do. But the business world they're trying to enter is built on binary choices, linear speed, and extraction. It's a complete mismatch of operating systems.
And that creates what Solene calls the speed trap. This was the part of the reading that really, really struck me. Because standard startup advice is launch the MVP, fail fast, iterate, break things. Why does Solene say this is so dangerous for this specific group?
It comes down to the difference between selling, say, a toaster and selling yourself.
Okay.
If you're iterating a toaster, trial and error is great. If the toaster breaks, you fix the heating element, no big deal.
Yeah.
But when you are the product, when your psychology, your presence, your insight is what you're selling, failing fast effectively fragments the psyche.
Fragmentation. That's a really strong word. What does that look like in practice? What does that feel like?
Well, imagine you launch an offer before you fully embodied the result you're promising. You're sort of, faking it till you make it.
Which is what everyone tells you to do.
It's the standard advice.
Yeah.
But because you are a conscious foreseer, you are hyper-aware of alignment. So the moment you put that offer out, you feel a dissonance, a deep one. You feel like a fraud.
And that's not just imposter syndrome.
No, she's very clear on this. It's not the standard sense of imposter syndrome. It's a legitimate recognition that you have solidified a brand that represents who you were yesterday, or maybe who you think you should be, rather than who you actually are right now.
You lock yourself into a form that's already too small.
Exactly. She calls it premature solidification. And because it feels so fundamentally wrong, what do? You withdraw.
You ghost your own business.
You ghost your audience. You delete the posts. And this leads to that cycle we see constantly online. Someone launches with a huge bang, then vanishes for 6 months.
And then it comes back with a totally new identity.
A totally new identity, a new brand launches again and ghosts again. In a painful loop.
I think everyone listening knows at least one person in that cycle. Or maybe they are that person. I've certainly felt that urge to just, burn everything down and start over because the box I built for myself suddenly felt way too tight.
And the tragedy of it all is the misdiagnosis. They think, I lack grit or I'm self-sabotaging.
Right, I'm just not cut out for this.
And Solene's argument is, no, you have a developmental pacing issue. You are trying to run high-voltage software, these complex, beautiful spiritual insights.
On low-voltage hardware.
On low-voltage hardware. A nervous system that just hasn't stabilized at that new level yet.
That hardware-software analogy is so helpful. It moves it away from a moral failing and into the realm of system error.
Exactly.
It's like trying to run a brand new 4K video game on a computer from, 1995. A computer isn't bad, it just doesn't have the architecture.
Precisely. And because these are what she calls unseen inner errors, they manifest as very real, very tangible business problems. Solene categorizes these into what she calls the 7 developmental dilemmas.
Okay.
And these are the specific ways that these high-level spiritual truths can turn into, business craps.
I want to walk through all 7 of these because they're terrifyingly accurate. It's almost like she read the private diaries of every spiritual coach on the internet.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
It really does. So let's start with the first one, identity and authority. This conflict she talks about between no self and personal authority.
Right. So if you've done deep spiritual work or even just, deep psychological work, you might have touched the truth of no self.
The idea that the ego is a construct.
Yeah, that separation is an illusion, that we are all part of a larger flow. And that's a profound, beautiful, liberating insight.
But a business needs a CEO.
A business needs a CEO. You can't sign a contract as the universe. A business requires distinctness. It needs boundaries. It requires someone to stand up and say, I am the expert here, and this is the direction we are going.
And the dilemma is that the conscious entrepreneur often feels that asserting that authority, just saying I am, is a regression.
A betrayal, even. They feel like they're reifying the ego, which is the very thing they've been trying to dissolve on their meditation cushion for the last 10 years.
So what's the business consequence of that? They just end up being vague.
They end up being wishy-washy. They use language like, well, we could, perhaps explore this if it resonates, instead of, here's the plan.
And clients can feel that. They feel the lack of a container.
Absolutely. Clients need a container. If you can't hold your own shape, the client can't relax. They don't trust you to guide them because you don't seem to be guiding yourself.
So what's the fix there? I mean, do we just abandon the spiritual insight and go back to being egomaniacs?
No, and that's the beautiful nuance that Solene brings. She suggests the shift is in distinguishing between rigid identification, which is thinking you are your job title, or that you are superior.
The bad kind of ego.
Right. Distinguishing that from what she calls functional selfhood.
Functional selfhood. I like that phrase.
It's great, isn't it? It means having a healthy ego structure that is like a tool. You pick it up to pay your taxes, to set your business hours, to lead a sales call, and then you can put it down. It doesn't define you.
It's a spacesuit. You wear it to operate in the specific environment of business, but it's not you.
What a perfect analogy, yes.
Yeah.
It's a functional spacesuit, but it's not the soul inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads us to dilemma number 2, meaning and motivation. This is what I call the nothing to prove trap.
Ah, yes. This one is tricky.
It's very tricky because a deep spiritual truth says you are already whole. You have nothing to become. You have nothing to prove, which is true. But business reality says we need to generate revenue, create content, and serve our clients. We have things to do.
And I've seen so many people use that spiritual truth to bypass the actual work. I'm just surrendering to the flow. I'm waiting for alignment.
Solene has a great phrase for that. She calls it passivity masquerading as surrender.
Ooh.
It's a very comfortable, very noble-sounding place to hide. When you lose the necessity of action because you're afraid of looking attached to outcomes, you lose vitality. A business needs drive. It needs kinetic energy.
But isn't drive usually associated with that toxic hustle culture? The I need to prove my dad was wrong about me kind of energy.
Usually, yes. And that's what she calls deficiency motivation acting because you feel a lack, a hole you need to fill. Solene argues the deep work is to find a motivation that is intrinsic movement.
Intrinsic movement. What does that feel like?
Think of a child playing, or an artist painting, or a river flowing. They aren't doing it to prove they exist. They're doing it because life wants to move through them. It's an expression of aliveness.
So you have to find the place where you can be aggressive in your business, in the sense of moving forward with force without it coming from a place of, I'm not good enough.
That is the razor's edge. It's a subtle but massive distinction. It's acting from fullness rather than from emptiness.
I see. So action is non-negotiable. It's the source of the action that has to change.
Correct. The source is everything.
Okay, let's move to dilemma number 3. This one is about time. Timeless awareness versus linear commitments. I feel like I've been very guilty of this one in my life.
I think we all have. In deep presence, in a state of flow or meditation, time is irrelevant. The now is all there is. Past and future are just mental constructs.
Which is true on a certain level of consciousness.
It is absolutely true. But if you have a deadline on Tuesday at 5 p.m. or a client waiting on a Zoom call at 2 p.m., the eternal now isn't going to help you if you haven't done the prep work in linear time.
This is the intuitive timing excuse, isn't it? Oh, it just didn't feel aligned to send the invoice today. The energy wasn't right.
That is the most common manifestation of it, yes. And Solene is very critical of this. She points out that often divine timing is just a spiritual labor we slap on fear-based procrastination.
Ouch. Yeah, that hits home.
It's resistance. We use the grand concept of timelessness to avoid the friction of linear responsibility. And the business consequence is broken trust.
Right. You can't run a business on broken trust.
Never. You can be a spiritual wizard, you can have the best insights in the world, but if you consistently flake on appointments and miss deadlines, the container leaks. The business collapses because the operational trust is gone. You have to be able to operate in Chronos clock time while holding Kairos, that deep, sacred time. You need both.
Okay, moving to number 4, communication. This one's called ineffability versus language. And ineffability just means unable to be expressed in words, right?
Exactly. And deep truths are hard to put into words. If you help people navigate trauma or spiritual awakening or complex leadership dynamics, trying to reduce that to a 5-word marketing hook feels like violence, feels reductive and cheap.
3 easy steps to enlightenment. Hack your trauma in just 30 days. It just feels gross.
It's horrible. So the reaction for the conscious entrepreneur is to swing to the other extreme.
The academic, poetic language.
Exactly. They start using incredibly abstract, dense, poetic language that, frankly, nobody understands. They start talking about navigating the liminal spaces of the quantum soul aperture.
And the potential client is just sitting there thinking, okay, that sounds pretty, I guess, but can you help me stop yelling at my kids?
Precisely. Solene says depth becomes a hiding place. We hide in complexity because we're afraid to be simple. We worry that if we speak simply, we'll be seen as basic or unevolved.
When really the genius is in making the complex simple.
That is the true discipline. Simplification without reduction. You have to build a sturdy bridge from your world of depth to their world of practical problems. If you don't build that bridge, you aren't serving anyone.
Number 5 feels like a really big one for the healers and helpers out there. Equality versus asymmetry.
It is huge. Spiritually, we are all equal. One consciousness, a field of being. We are all mirrors of each other. That's a core truth. But in a service contract, there is an asymmetry. I am the provider. You are the client. I am the mentor. You are the student. There is a directional flow of value and money.
And if you deny that power dynamic because you just want to be friends or equals,
you get blurred boundaries instantly.
Okay.
You get the coach who overgives, who is texting clients at 10 p.m., or who tolerates really inappropriate or even abusive behavior from clients because they understand their trauma.
Right. They think, oh, this person is just acting out their wounding, so I should hold more space for it.
And Solene frames this as the tension between compassion versus discernment.
Okay, say more about that.
You can have infinite compassion for why a client is acting out. You can see their childhood, their pain, their conditioning. But you must have the discernment to say, and that behavior is not allowed in this professional space.
That is such a hard line for empaths to draw. They often feel like setting a boundary is mean, or that saying no is an act of aggression.
But the boundary is actually what allows the work to happen. A river needs banks to flow. Without the container, the transformation just leaks out. If you are friends with your client, you can't challenge them effectively. You lose your leverage to help them actually change.
That makes so much sense. Okay, number 6, the big one, money. Symbolism versus survival.
The paradox here is so stark. On one hand, money is a made-up symbol. It's not real in the way a tree or a sensation in your body is real. It's a social agreement.
Right. It's a story we all agree to believe in.
But on the other hand, rent is a material reality you need to eat. The trap here is what she calls spiritualizing financial instability.
Pretending you're above money while privately panicking about your bank account.
Yes, saying things like, the universe will provide, as a way to avoid creating a budget. And Solene brings up this absolutely crucial concept of intrinsic worth versus market value. I think this is where so many conscious entrepreneurs get stuck.
Unpack that for us. What's the difference?
Okay, so your intrinsic worth as a human being, it's infinite. It's immeasurable. It cannot be priced. There's no number high enough to represent the value of your soul.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the market does not pay for your soul. The market pays for the service you provide within a specific context based on supply, demand, and perceived value.
And if you confuse those two things, if you fuse
them, you will try to charge your soul's worth for a coaching package. And when someone says, oh, that's too expensive for me, you will feel it as a deep personal rejection of your very being.
You feel devalued as a person.
Completely. You resent the client for not seeing you, for not valuing you. You have to surgically separate the price tag on the service from the value of your existence.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say, my rate is X because that is the market rate for this specific outcome, not my rate is X because I am a divine being.
That detachment probably makes sales conversations about 1,000 times easier. You're just discussing the service, not negotiating your right to exist.
Precisely. It neutralizes the emotional charge completely.
Which brings us to the final dilemma, number 7. And this feels like it ties everything together. Insight versus embodiment.
It really does. It brings us right back to that hardware-software issue we started with. Seeing is not the same as living. You can have a brilliant intellectual understanding of non-duality. You can draw a diagram of the nervous system and explain the mechanism of trauma. But your own nervous system might still hijack you into fight or flight when you get a critical email or a refund request.
This is the Instagram guru problem, isn't it? Preaching the insight 5 minutes after you had it in your journal.
It is. Solene warns that teaching before you embody creates what she calls shadow dynamics. If you preach peace but you live in chaos, that split will eventually tear the business apart from the inside out.
People feel it.
People can smell it a mile away. It creates a fundamental lack of integrity. You are essentially selling a map to a place you haven't actually walked to yet. You've only seen it on Google Earth.
So, okay, we have these 7 dilemmas. And honestly, if I'm listening to this, I'm probably identifying with at least 3, maybe all 7 of them. I'm feeling that mismatch. I'm seeing all the places I've gotten stuck. So what is the solution? Solene doesn't just diagnose the problem. She offers a methodology, this living embodied presence, or LEP.
Right. And it's really important to emphasize that she frames LEP not as like a spiritual practice or a self-help technique, but as a scientific methodology. She calls it a first-person research methodology.
That sounds very academic, first-person research. What does that actually mean in practice?
It means you are turning your own direct, moment-to-moment experience into a laboratory. In traditional science, what we could call third-person science, you look at a petri dish.
Yeah.
You are the observer, the dish is the object.
Right, there's a separation.
A separation. In LEP, the practitioner is simultaneously the observer, the instrument being used for observation, and the subject being observed. It requires a level of rigor and precision that goes way beyond just, noticing how I feel today.
So how does one actually do this science? What are the steps, the components of the method?
Well, it starts with phenomenology. That's a fancy philosophical term, but it just means the study of direct experience.
Okay.
In the context of LEP, it means training your attention to observe 3 specific streams of data in real time. Sensation, the raw data from your body. Affect, which is the raw energy of emotion, before you label it sad or angry. And attention itself. Where's my focus right now?
Okay, so sensation, affect, attention. But there's a catch.
There's a huge catch.
Yeah.
And this is the hardest part. You have to observe them without the narrative. Without the story your mind immediately wants to tell about them.
Without the story. Can you give an example of that?
Absolutely. Let's play this out. You're an entrepreneur, you open your email, and you see a client has canceled their contract. Your immediate experience is a tightness in your chest.
Yep, I know that feeling.
Your brain immediately jumps in and says, I'm losing money, I'm a failure, this business isn't going to work, I'm going to lose my house.
Yeah.
That is the narrative.
And usually we get completely swept away by that narrative. We start problem solving the failure.
We do. But the phenomenological approach, the LEP approach, is to stop before the narrative takes hold. You look at the raw data. You say, okay, I am experiencing a sensation of constriction in the thoracic region. There is a sensation of heat rising in my neck. My heart rate has accelerated. My attention is now fixated on the computer screen. You just report the facts.
Why does stripping the story actually help the business? It feels a little like you're just ignoring the problem.
Because the problem as defined by the catastrophic narrative is often an illusion, a ghost created by the nervous system's threat response. By stripping the story, you gain the ability to regulate the nervous system directly.
I see.
You aren't fighting the abstract ghost of I'm a failure. You are breathing into the very real physical tightness in your chest. You are regulating the heat and tension in your body. Solene calls this phenomenological precision. And when you stabilize the biology, the narrative changes all on its own. You look at the email again, and the thought isn't, I'm a failure. It's, oh, a cancellation. That frees up a spot. I should email the person on my wait list.
So it's data collection that leads to biological regulation, which then leads to a clearer perspective.
That's the process. And that leads to the second part of the methodology, the epistemology, which is just a word meaning how we know what we know. This is where she completely redefines intuition for a practical context.
She says intuition isn't mystical, which I found really surprising for a consciousness researcher.
She says it can have mystical dimensions, but for the practical purpose of running a business, we need to treat it as trained pattern recognition.
Trained pattern recognition.
Yes. Think about how a master chess player just knows the next move, or how a veteran firefighter knows a roof is about to collapse. It's not magic. It's their brain processing thousands of micro data points faster than the conscious mind can possibly track.
That's a definition I can get behind. It grounds it in something real and trainable.
It does. But here's the challenge for the intuitive entrepreneur. Is this gut feeling I'm having actually a sophisticated pattern recognition? Is it true intuition, or is it just my trauma projecting fear? Is the impulse, don't send that marketing email, coming from wisdom, or is it coming from cowardice?
That is the million-dollar question. How on earth did you tell the difference?
Solene offers two validation criteria. She suggests looking for internal coherence and pragmatic reliability.
Okay, what do those mean?
Internal coherence means, does this insight feel clean? Does it align with other data points I have? Does it feel expansive in the body? Or does it feel like a contraction born of fear? And then pragmatic reliability is simple. If you act on it, does it work?
So you have to test it.
You have to treat your intuition like a scientific hypothesis, not a divine commandment. You test it in small ways. You track the results. You error correct.
And that's the science part again. If your hypothesis is wrong, you don't shame yourself. You don't say my intuition sucks. You just update the data set.
Exactly. My hypothesis was incorrect. That is a neutral scientific statement. I am an idiot and I can't trust myself is shame. Shame shuts down the entire system. Science evolves it. For an entrepreneur making high-stakes decisions, you need that epistemological rigor. You can't just follow every whim and call it flow.
This is deep stuff, and it leads into the deepest part of her work, the ontology, the who am I question. We touched on her model of matter, life, and mind.
Yes. Solene views the human system as these three nested, continuous, but distinguishable dimensions. Matter is the physical stuff. The atoms, the sensation, the gravity, the body itself.
Okay.
Life is the next layer up. It's the self-organizing regulation, the breath, the heartbeat, the metabolic processes, the flow of affect and emotion. It's the aliveness. And then mind is the layer of representation. The thinking, the planning, the visualizing, the storytelling.
Yeah.
And the problem she identifies, and this is the absolute key to the whole imposter feeling, is asynchronous development.
This was the most validating part of the entire reading for me, the idea that these different parts of us grow at different speeds.
It explains so much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can have a mind that is highly, highly evolved. You can understand complex systems. You can witness your own thoughts. You have what she calls high witnessing capacity. You intellectually get non-duality. But your life dimension, your emotional regulation, your amygdala, your lizard brain might still be reacting like a toddler who just had their favorite toy taken away.
So you can be a spiritual genius and an emotional wreck at the exact same time.
And Solene's crucial point is that this is normal. It is not a failure. It's just mechanics. The mind can change its mind in a single second. Oh, I see, I'm not my ego. Boom, insight. But the body, the life dimension, that learns through slow, painstaking repetition and biological reorganization. It takes years for the nervous system to rewire.
But the business problem arises when a highly evolved mind tries to drag the toddler-like life dimension along too fast.
Exactly. The mind says, we are launching this new program next week. We are going to be visible to thousands of people. And the life dimension, the body, says, I am terrified. This is not safe. I am shutting down all non-essential systems. And that's where the procrastination and the burnout come from.
And usually we just try to whip the life dimension into shape. We say, get over it, push through, feel the fear, and do it anyway.
Which is like yelling at that 1995 computer to play the 4K game. It just causes the system to crash. The solution she proposes is using the integrator, what she calls knowing awareness, to hold all these parts with compassion.
So what does that look like?
It looks like turning your awareness inward and seeing the terrified body and the ambitious mind and saying, I see both of you. I am not judging the fear, and I'm not judging the ambition. We are going to move at a pace that works for the slowest part of the system.
At the pace of the slowest part. That is so counterintuitive to everything we're taught about business growth. We are always told the chain is only as strong as its weakest link, so you have to fix or cut the weak link.
In the short term, yes, it feels incredibly slow. It feels like you are holding yourself back. But Solene argues that this is the only way to build what she calls regenerative systems. If you build a business that requires you to violate your own biology to run it, it is by definition unsustainable. It will collapse. It's just physics.
But if you build a business that honors the actual current capacity of your nervous system,
You build something that can grow organically and sustainably forever.
so practically speaking, this brings us to her concept of spirals. Because if we are moving at the pace of the slowest part, it can often feel like we're just going in circles, dealing with the same issues over and over.
Yes. Western business culture loves the straight line. Q1 to Q2 to Q3, up and to the right. Linear growth. But Solene argues that consciousness and biology and real development all happen in spirals. You will revisit the same core issues. Your relationship with money, with visibility, with your own worth again and again and again.
Which usually feels like a massive failure. Ugh, why am I dealing with this money anxiety again? I thought I healed this back in 2019.
But in a spiral model, you aren't in the same spot. You're at the same coordinates on the map, but you're at a higher altitude. You have a wider view.
You're revisiting the issue to integrate it at a deeper level.
Exactly. The first time you dealt with it intellectually, in the mind, now you're being asked to deal with it somatically, in the life dimension. It's a deeper reorganization of the whole system.
That reframing is vital. It changes I'm stuck to, I'm deepening.
And that is the ultimate goal for the conscious foreseer. Not just to make money, but to achieve unified inner and outer evolution. The business becomes the dojo. The daily challenges of the business are the curriculum for your own development. The money issue isn't an obstacle to the business. It is the material for your evolution.
So if we zoom all the way out, we've gone from feeling broken because we can't follow standard business advice to realizing we have a hardware-software mismatch, to using this first-person science, this LEP, to observe, regulate, and integrate all the parts of ourselves at their own pace.
Right. The key takeaway isn't go fix yourself so you can finally be a billionaire. It's study yourself with precision so you can build an outer structure that actually fits your inner one. It's about moving from a mindset of fixing to one of evolving.
It's permission to stop rushing.
It's more than permission. She would say it's a strategic imperative. Think about a caterpillar in a chrysalis. It turns into this disorganized goo before it becomes a butterfly.
Right.
If you rush that goo phase, if you try to speed up the reorganization, you don't get a faster butterfly. You get a dead mess.
Don't rush the goo. I think I'm going to put that on a sticky note on my monitor. That's a keeper.
And I'll leave you with this final and perhaps provocative thought. We've established that for the single-person business, the practitioner is the system. That means your business growth is biologically limited by your nervous system's capacity to process reality.
Let's just sit with that for a second. Biologically limited. That's the quote of this whole deep dive.
It is. You cannot scale your revenue beyond your nervous system's ability to regulate the stress, the visibility, the complexity, and the responsibility that comes with that revenue. If you try, your body, in its wisdom, will sabotage the growth to keep you safe and to prevent a system-wide crash.
So what you're saying is the most strategic thing you can do right now isn't to buy another course on Facebook ads.
It isn't to write a new sales funnel. It might be to sit down, close your eyes, and start studying your own immediate raw experience with the rigor and the curiosity of a scientist. Because that internal capacity that is the ultimate ceiling of your business. Everything else is secondary.
The laboratory is open. I love that framing. It turns the often scary inner work into something you can be curious about.
And curiosity is the antidote to judgment. When you are curious about your resistance, you aren't fighting it anymore. And that is the moment that integration can actually happen.
We're going to leave it there. This has been incredibly clarifying. If you want to dive into Kaia Solene's papers, and just a heads up, they are dense, but man, are they rewarding. We'll have a link in the show notes. We've linked her methodology guide there too.
It's a completely new paradigm for building a business. It's really worth the read.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you in the next one.
Take care.